The Rendlesham Mystery is the most significant UFO sighting in the UK. It has been featured on CNN and Unsolved Mysteries in the US and Strange But True and Network First in the UK. The event happened in Rendlesham Forest, which lies next to RAF Woodbridge and RAF Bent Waters. These were both American bases which played an important role in NATO's frontline defenses. In 2021, and after nearly 41 years, a retired policeman reveals evidence of Rendlesham UFO incident. The time of my sighting was precisely 1:55 a.m. It really was like something out of a Star Trek movie. To be honest, words are inadequate to even begin to try and explain just how fantastic and how mind-blowing this encounter was. And the color of the saucer, it was like no other green I have ever seen. The photo really doesn't do it justice. Don't get me wrong, it's a wonderful Polaroid, but to see that saucer hovering in the sky and the sheer size of it, and the phenomenal speed at which it departed, the two simply don't compare. It was a truly mind-blowing experience that no photograph could ever capture. The time at 1:55 a.m. is identical to the statements of UFOs hunters, as most of them stated that most of UFOs appear after 1 o'clock in the morning until about 5 in the morning at different altitudes, most of which appear at very high altitudes and can only be detected with the use of the interstellar telescope. The color of the unidentified flying object, which is unlike any other color on Earth, is identical to the Italian Giovanna statement that such organisms use a very strong phosphorus substance that is not similar to any substance found on the planet. The enormous size of the spacecraft is very logical for such highly sophisticated vehicles, and it matches what witnesses said of a huge spacecraft in Malaysia. The tremendous speed of takeoff matches the statements of most eyewitnesses to these unidentified flying objects, especially the famous Betty Hill statements. I had a very difficult time coming to terms with what I encountered on that December evening. Back then in 1980 there was no one to turn to. It's not like it is today. What with the internet and a simple click of a few buttons and you are instantly online talking to support groups. It just wasn't like that back then. Plus I never wanted to tell anyone anyway. I mean, would you? And especially being a serving police officer, it just simply wasn't an option. So I just filed it away in the back of my mind and tried to get on with my life. That wasn't to be though. Soon after my encounter I started suffering with anxiety and panic attacks and clinical depression. I suffered terrible and frightening nightmares also, and it wasn't long before things started to destroy my marriage. What the witness narrated in this paragraph is very similar to what we have heard from most of those who have been exposed to seeing such mysterious flying objects of fear, attacks of anxiety, and disturbing nightmares, and this description matches with the famous case of Barney and Betty Hill, where they were in the same state of confusion and fear, and anxiety and disturbing nightmares. I took time off work, but it didn't help. All I did was drink myself into oblivion and sleep all day. Eventually I confided in my wife and decided to seek professional help. I ended up in therapy, I had a psychiatrist, I was on antidepressants. This whole UFO encounter turned my life upside down, and eventually I had to leave the police force on medical grounds, and unfortunately, I have never worked another day since. I have suffered with terrible physical and mental health problems ever since this thing happened, and I know for a fact that all my health conditions are a direct result of my encounter with a flying saucer. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, not even my worst enemy. Many of those who were exposed to this situation suffered from psychological problems and went to doctors for psychological treatment, and some of them even underwent hypnotherapy sessions. I can tell you this also, several days after my encounter, a very good friend of mine who was a high-ranking senior police officer told me that he was visited at home by 3 men claiming to be military intelligence. He said he was simply told in no uncertain terms that if anyone mentions the word UFO, then simply tell them that they probably saw the lighthouse and simply tell them it was faulty at the time. He said they gave him other information, but he wouldn't disclose it to me. I also heard quite a few strange tales from members of the public in the months that followed my UFO sighting. None of them were ever reported for fear of ridicule. They may sound far-fetched to most people, but not to me, not after what I saw. Such observations are always interpreted as false sightings of a regular aircraft, a weather balloon, or even a military aircraft or aerial maneuvers. There are also thousands of sightings of such mysterious flying objects that have not been disclosed, as witnesses have preferred to remain silent for fear of ridicule. For all those individuals out there who simply think that the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident was nothing more than a flying lighthouse or can be explained away by some other ridiculous explanation, let me say this: spare a thought for all those who were caught up in this. It was real. Hopefully one day soon, and especially within my lifetime, I hope that all the information the government have, including photographic evidence, is released and made available to the general public, as we all have a right to know the facts and truth as to what really happened in Rendlesham Forest.